This video will review section 6.3 and 6.4 and prepare you for your knowledge check. So on numbers 1 through 6, you want to sketch a diagram, find the value of x, then find the measure of each angle if necessary, and then don't forget to use your units. Okay, so for number 1, it says to suppose you have a pair of complementary angles. So remember that complementary angles, their sum is 90 degrees. So you remember what complementary angles are. Then it says that one angle measures 3x plus 5 degrees and the other angle measures 4x plus 15 degrees. Find the value of x, then find the measure of each angle. So I'm going to sketch a diagram. So if the angles are complementary, they're going to add up to 90 degrees. So I'm going to put a box here because that indicates that the entire angle would be 90. So one of the angles is 3x plus 5. And then the second angle would be 4x plus 15. So if the angles are complementary, that means that 3x plus 5 plus 4x plus 15 is equal to 90. So now you want to solve the equation. So add your like terms. 3x plus 4x would be 7x. Plus then 5 plus 15 would be 20. So that 7x plus 20 will equal 90. So you want to solve algebraically for x. So add negative 20 to both sides. So you can pause the video at any time to solve this algebraically and then check your answers once you're done solving. So you end up getting that x equals 10. So once you have that x equals 10, you want to find the measure of each angle as instructed. So one angle is 3x plus 5. So to solve for that angle, you replace x with 10. So you'd have 3 times 10 plus 5. So you get 30 plus 5. So that angle would be 35 degrees. So there's one of the angles. And the second angle is 4x plus 15. So replace x into the second expression, 4 times 10 plus 15. So you get 40 plus 15, which is 55. And you can double check that these angles are complementary. Add 35 plus 55 and see that that equals 90 degrees. So if it does, that means you solved correctly. Okay, example number 2. Suppose that you have a pair of vertical angles. So one angle is 7x minus 5 and the other angle is 135 degrees. Find the value of x. So let's sketch a picture of vertical angles. So vertical angles are across from each other and they're also congruent. And congruent means that they're equal in measure. So you want to remember that for your quiz. Okay, so one angle is 7x minus 5. And then the one across from it would be 135 degrees. So those two would be vertical angles or directly across from each other. So that means that they're equal. So my equation would be that 7x minus 5 is equal to 135. Okay, so that's your equation. Now I'm going to go through and solve. I'm going to rewrite subtraction as addition. So 7x plus negative 5 equals 135. Then I'm going to solve algebraically, so you can pause the video and solve and then check your answers. Okay, so once you solve, you get that x is equal to 20. So in this problem, all we're asked to do is find the value of x. So x would be 20. If you were asked to find the other angle, then you would replace x with 20. So you would do 7 times 20 minus 5. And you get 140 minus 5, which is 135. And notice that if you solve correctly, you should get 135 degrees because vertical angles are exactly the same measure. But in this problem, all you're asked to do is solve for x. So make sure that on your quiz, you pay attention to the directions and just solve for what they want you to find. Okay. On number 3, it says, suppose you have a pair of supplementary angles. So supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So you want to make a note that the sum of these supplementary angles is 180 degrees. So one angle is 4x degrees and the other angle is 2x. Find the value of x, then we find the measure of each angle. So this problem does ask us to find the measure of each angle. So we're going to sketch a diagram. Now these angles are just supplementary. They don't tell us whether they're adjacent and supplementary. I'm going to draw them so that they are adjacent and supplementary, but they don't necessarily have to be adjacent. So one angle would be 4x and the other angle would be 2x. Okay, so when you write your equation, 4x plus 2x has to equal 180. So you get 4x plus 2x would be 6x equals 180. And then go ahead and solve algebraically and check your answer once you're done. Okay, so when you solve for x will equal 30. And now we want to find the measure of each angle as instructed. So one angle is 4x, so we take x and multiply it by 4. So 4 times 30 is 120 degrees. And the other angle would be 2 times x, so 2 times 30, which is 60 degrees. So the angles are 120 degrees and 60 degrees. Okay, if you can check that 120 plus 60 is 180, so that tells you that you solved correctly. Okay, number 4, suppose an angle A is complementary to angle B. If angle A measures 36 degrees, what is the measure of angle B? So recall that complementary angles, their sum is 90 degrees. So okay, you can sketch a little diagram for these two complementary angles. Okay, so angle A measures 36 degrees. And then the other angle, angle B, we don't know. So I'm going to call that X. Okay, so they don't say anything about these angles being adjacent, so I'm just going to draw them separately. So let X equal the measure of angle B. So that means angle A, which is 36, plus the measure of angle B, which is X, has to equal 90. So solve for X and then check your answer once you're done. So when you solve, you get X equals 54. And now Since you're figuring out the measure of angle B, that's what we defined as x. So that means that angle B, measure of angle B, is 54 degrees. Okay. So for number 5, angle A and angle B are adjacent. Angle A is 40 degrees less than the measure of angle B. The sum of the measures of angle A and B is 170 degrees. What is the measure of angle A? Okay, so adjacent means they share a side. So I'm going to sketch an angle and then draw a ray coming out of it because they share a side. So we're told that angle A is 40 degrees less than the measure of angle B. We don't know the measure of angle B, so let's start there. So I'm going to let x equal the measure of angle B. Okay, so I'm going to define angle B as x. And then the other angle is 40 degrees less than. So less than means we're subtracting 40 from the measure of angle B, which is x. So the other angle would be x minus 40 equals the measure of angle A. Okay, so on my diagram, I'm going to label that as x minus 40. Okay, so now we know that the sum of the two angles is 170 degrees. So it means angle A plus angle B has to equal 170 degrees. So my equation will be x plus x minus 40 is equal to 170. So this equation would simplify to 2x plus negative 40 equals 170. So go ahead and solve for x and then pause the video and come back to check your work. Okay, so you get that x equals 105. So, but you're asked to figure out the measure of angle A. So the measure of angle A is x minus 40. That's what we defined it as. So that means we take x, which is 105, and subtract 40. And when you do that, you're going to get 65. So that would be 65 degrees. So the measure of angle A is equal to 65 degrees. Okay. In number 6, you have a triangle ABC. Angle B is the right angle, and then angle A measures 27 degrees. What is the measure of angle C? So you can sketch a diagram. So sketch a right triangle, and then angle B is the right angle. So I'm going to label my right angle as B. Then I have the rest, I'm going to call them A and C, the other two angles. The acute angles are A and C. And then we're told angle A is 27 degrees. We want to know the measure of angle C. So I'm going to let x equal the measure of angle C. Okay, so you have to remember that the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So that means that x, which is angle C, plus 27, which is the measure of angle A, plus the measure of angle B, which is 90 degrees. So that box indicates that angle B is 90 degrees. That's going to equal 180. So go ahead and solve for x and then check your answers. 63 degrees. So that means if x is 63 degrees and we found that the measure of angle C, we define that as x, That means the measure of angle C is 63 degrees. Okay, so this concludes part 1 of your review for the knowledge check, or page 1, and then in the next video we're going to go over page 2 of your knowledge check. So stay tuned for that in the following video.